Good morning, everyone. Let's start with the tendon transfer technique, part 2. So, what all we learned in the tendon transfer technique are just the basic principles, types of transfers, definition, its history, and indications. Let's start with what are the techniques which are generally performed in the human body. So, it is classified into two types, upper limb and lower limb. So, we'll be dealing with these all today. Upper limb is long thoracic nerve injury, for tendon transfer for long thoracic nerve injuries, Steiner flexoplasty, high radial nerve palsy, Jones transfer, Brand's transfer, high median nerve palsy. In lower limb, we'll be looking at split tibialis anterior tendon transfer for peroneal, tibialis anterior through the interosseous membrane into tendo-achilles or calcaneum, tibialis posterior and peroneus longus into tendo-achilles or calcaneum, lateral transfers and medial transfer. So first, as we discussed, we'll look after long thoracic nerve injury. Long thoracic nerve supplies the serratus anterior. So definitely, if the long thoracic nerve gets injured, the serratus muscle will end up into weakness. So where is serratus muscle originating from and inserting into? This is nothing but the posterior human body where the scapula is present. And serratus muscle is originating from the eight ribs, first eight ribs, and getting inserted into the medial border of the scapula from the costal surface. So, the muscle chosen to replace the action performed by serratus anterior is the nearby muscle known as latissimus dorsi. Latissimus dorsi originates from T7 to T11 vertebrae, iliac crest, as well as inferior angle of the scapula and gets inserted into the intertubercle sulcus of the humerus. So it's very easy to relocate the insertion of latissimus dorsi to the scapulae. So point out the latissimus dorsi insertion. The insertion point is changed to the insertion point of serratus anterior. So the muscle after tendon transfer will look somewhat like this. So the action performed by serratus anterior is substituted or is added. The action, the force produced by serratus anterior is added by the force produced by latissimus dorsi, as the basic action is carried out by latissimus dorsi. Coming to the Steindler flexoplasty. This is one of the important tendon transfer because this is the tendon transfer where not the origin is shifted, rather, where not the insertion is shifted, rather the origin of the muscle is shifted to a new origin, so that the transferred tendon replaces the function of the weakened muscle. So let's look at it, how the image will look. The muscle chosen in Steindler flexoplasty is flexor mass, the origin of the flexor mass. So when we are talking about elbow weakness, wherein your biceps brachii is weakened, the muscle which is known for elbow flexion. So in that case, where the elbow flexors are weak, the flexor mass origin, which is on the medial condyle of the humerus, looking into the image, common flexor mass origin, which is on the medial condyle of the humerus, is shifted to a new origin, higher on the anterior aspect of the humerus, so that when the flexor mass contracts, the elbow flexes. This is done to add some amount of force to the biceps brachii in order to carry out the elbow flexion action. Coming to extensor carpi radialis brevis, tendon transferred by pronator teres. Extensor carpi radialis brevis. The function of this muscle is to do extension in radial deviated position. So this muscle can be replaced or can be reconstructed by pronator teres. So the green, this is nothing but your forearm. The radius bone lies in between with the yellow color. These are the muscles. The green color structure is brachioradialis, the blue color structure is pronator teres, whereas the orange color structure is extensor carpi radialis brevis. When we read about tendon transfer, the technique of suturing is either end to end or end to side. So first let's look into what does end to side. Pronator muscle in this image normally lies beneath the brachioradialis. When we are doing tendon transfer, the pronator muscle is shifted to above the brachioradialis, passing the radial bone and attaching to the extensor carpi radialis brevis at the side. This is how end to side transfer of pronator teres is done. Looking into end to end, we already know the anatomy that pronator teres lies beneath the brachioradialis. In end to end, it is again taken above the brachialis and attached to the end of the extensor carpi radialis brevis to carry out the action extension of wrist and in the radially deviated position. Coming to the next one, high radial nerve palsy for thumb extension. When a person has high radial nerve palsy, thumb extension is impaired. So let's look at the muscle which is present, known as palmaris longus. Palmaris longus, sometimes nowadays in few studies, in few recent studies, is proven to be, if not present, it is also considered to be normal, because the action of palmaris longus is cupping of the hand. This can be substituted by flexor carpi ulnaris, also along with the lumbricals. Hence, palmaris longus is chosen for the tendon transfer of extensor pollicis longus. In the cases where extensor pollicis longus is injured, palmaris longus is replaced from its insertion, like it is shown normally in the image, to the new insertion point passing through a pulley in the forearm. This is nothing but high radial nerve palsy for thumb extension. Palmaris longus muscle is chosen to replace extensor pollicis longus muscle. Coming to the next transfer, Jones transfer. Jones transfer is done with two muscles, that is extensor digitorum communis and flexor carpi ulnaris. When a person has severe hand trauma, wherein he ruptures extensor digitorum communis muscle. Extensor digitorum communis is very important because it is a bulkier muscle of the forearm which extends its tendons to all four fingers along with the wrist to carry out the action of wrist extension along with the forefinger extension. If this muscle is ruptured, then there is no extension at wrist or reduced extension at wrist and no extension at all the fingers. There's one more muscle nearby to extensor digitorum communis known as flexor carpi ulnaris, which is also strong, which is also bulky. Hence, in Jones transfer, flexor carpi ulnaris is divided into four parts and then resupplied to the extensor instead of to the extensor digitorum communis, so that the action of flexor carpi ulnaris is replaced by extension at all the four fingers along with the wrist. This is nothing but Jones transfer, where a flexor muscle is replaced to the extensor aspect to carry out the extension of wrist and the rest four fingers, excluding the thumb. Coming to high ulnar nerve palsy, that is Brand's transfer. In this transfer, the extensor carpi radialis brevis muscle is passed through the metacarpal bones. Sorry for the spelling mistake. These are not carpals, these are metacarpals. Extensor carpi radialis brevis muscle is passed through the carpal bones, second carpal bone tunnel, in order to reach the first metacarpal on the medial side, so that adduction of the thumb takes place. This branch transfer is usually done in high ulnar nerve palsy. Coming to the high median nerve palsy. When we are talking about high median nerve, we have two muscles. Median nerve is known to do what? I'll put on the this thing video. It is known to do the opposition of the thumb. Look at the image. When we are talking about median nerve, we have to choose again the different compartment muscle, because opposition is performed by the opponent's pollicis, which is the smallest muscle. When we want the same action to achieve, we have to choose the strongest muscle, which can be equivalent to the opponent's pollicis. So the muscle chosen is extensor indicis proprius. Now coming to how it is done. When we are talking about extension of the index finger, there are two muscles doing extension of the index finger. The pink one is extensor indicis proprius, whereas the blue one is nothing but extensor digitorum communis. I already told you in the last slide that extensor digitorum communis is a forearm muscle which supplies the wrist for extension, also for the all four fingers, medial four fingers, in order to carry out the extension of the four fingers. So, among all the four fingers, medial four fingers I'm talking about, index finger has two muscles to extend. That is your extensor indicis proprius and extensor digitorum communis, a tendon from extensor digitorum communis. So, in order to get the opponent's opposition action of the thumb, the surgeon will choose the muscle known as extensor indicis proprius. He will rotate the muscle, get it in front, that is anterior side, and attach it to the thumb so that opposition action takes place. Coming to lower limb transfers. First one, split tibialis anterior tendon transfer for peroneal. We all know that this is the foot diagram, and tibialis anterior, the action of tibialis anterior is to do dorsiflexion and inversion according to its attachment. In this tendon transfer, the tibialis anterior is split. The insertion of one part of the split is kept intact, and the other part of the split is inserted into the navicular bone, so that on contraction, the tibialis anterior can produce complete dorsiflexion. It is a substitute for peroneal muscle in order to do eversion as well. Coming to next part, tibialis anterior through the interosseous membrane into tendo achilles or calcaneus. In the image demonstrates posterior view. This is tibia and this is fibula, where the last end bone is calcaneum. The tibialis anterior, which is lying on the anterior aspect of the tibia, a hole is made through the interosseous membrane where the muscle from anterior is pulled through the hole into posterior aspect, and in a circular manner it is attached to the calcaneus or the tendo achilles in order to achieve the action of plantar flexion. Coming to tibialis posterior and peroneus longus into tendo achilles or calcaneus. We already know tibialis posterior is lying within the posterior compartment, and peroneus longus is lying lateral in the lateral compartment. So instead of taking the last surgery, that is tibialis anterior, and tearing up the interosseous membrane, passing it to the posterior compartment, we can generally perform using the tibialis posterior and peroneus longus tendon, which are placed posteriorly and easily available for the tendon transfer, just attaching it to the calcaneus or the tendo achilles, which is above. If I would have drawn the tendo achilles, it would be very difficult to imagine the insertion on the calcanea. So I just skipped the tendo achilles part. Now we have two types of surgery. One is tibialis anterior through interosseous membrane, and one is tibialis posterior and peroneus longus into the tendo achilles or calcaneus. Both are inserted on tendo achilles and calcaneus. Both the tendon transfer are done to achieve the plantar flexion. Now, which is better? Tibialis anterior transfer or the tibialis posterior transfer? Tibialis posterior transfer is not only done alone. Tibialis posterior is done along with the peroneus longus because the muscle tibialis posterior is weaker. Hence, to substitute the weakened part, peroneus longus is also attached to the tendo achilles or calcaneus. So, this type of tendon transfer needs two muscle, whereas this tendon transfer needs only tibialis anterior muscle. But in this technique, the interosseous membrane is torn, made a hole in order to get the tibialis anterior from anterior aspect to the posterior aspect. These are the two differences in the type 1 surgery of tibialis anterior to posterior compartment, type 2 surgery of tibialis posterior and peroneus longus to the posterior compartment, that is your tendo achilles or calcaneum. Coming to the lateral transfer. Lateral transfer, we usually do it when the peroneus brevis is injured. Peroneus longus is attached to the metatarsals, whereas peroneus brevis is known to attach to the navicular bone. The action of both is nothing but eversion. When peroneus brevis is injured, peroneus longus, action of peroneus longus is abduction of the foot, whereas peroneus brevis is eversion. For walking normally to get compromised, eversion is not allowed. Abduction can get compromised, can get reduced, but eversion is a mandatory factor. Hence, when peroneus brevis, the only muscle which purely does eversion of the foot, not abduction, whereas peroneus longus does eversion and abduction, the insertion of peroneus longus is shifted to the navicular bone so that the entire foot goes into eversion on contraction of the peroneus longus. The surgery is performed when peroneus brevis is damaged or ruptured. So peroneus longus is chosen, the insertion is removed and replaced on the navicular bone to carry the eversion of the foot. Coming to the last transfer, that is medial transfer. In medial transfer, this is usually done when your tibialis posterior tendon is ruptured at the end of insertion, that is at the navicular bone. The replaced tendon, the tendon chosen for the tendon transfer is nothing but flexor